You're listening to the Spotless Podcast, where cleanliness is always next to podliness. Now, here are your hosts, Hannah Brooks Olson and Andrew Walsh.
Hannah, I want to talk about my Lomi. I don't know why I'm saying it like that.
I don't know. You're very chipper. I like it.
I am very chipper. I have had one of those weeks, or maybe even 2-week spans, where I've been thinking very much about how I want to dial up with you and tell you my Lomi story. Now, when I say Lomi, we've talked about it on the show in the past, but if we have new listeners who are unfamiliar, Lomi is a countertop device that you put your compost, your food scraps into. No bones, but you can put your other you can put your, ends of your carrots and celery, and what else do you put in yours?
We put our coffee grounds.
Yep.
We put our the whole paper, the coffee filter, whole thing, just right in there. Yeah.
Eggshells I'll put in there. That's good.
Orange peels.
Orange peels. You're a meatless house. We're not a meatless house, but I don't think we would ever put any meat in there. I don't remember what the rules are. A lot of orange peels. I've been eating so many oranges lately, I literally had to Google, is it bad to eat too many oranges?
What is that? I have been eating so
Really?
many, mandarin, little clementines. I've been eating, I don't know if my body thinks I'm at risk of getting scurvy or what is happening, but yes.
I don't remember
have
if this...
ripping through them.
I've always liked citrus, but something is going on specifically this year with me. I cannot eat enough oranges. I get those sumo ones. Those can be really expensive. Watch out, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I got screwed on those at the checkout one day. I think I paid $4 an orange, and I got what was it? I got 3 oranges, and it came to $12 because I had to use some digital coupon that I didn't.
Money.
Yes, well, I did. It was too late in the moment. Now I'm too scared. I don't even look at them when I walk by them in the grocery store now. I love them. They're my favorite orange, probably. We're off topic. All right, so I have this Lomi thing, and it was gifted to me by somebody who had bought it for themselves and didn't really like it that much for various reasons, and so they gave it to me because a Lomi is a pretty expensive piece of equipment, right?
And yes, and I do want to say, because we've mentioned it before, and we both have the Lomi brand one. However, and I bought mine, I think, on Black Friday sort of sale-ish a couple years ago now. Since we both have been talking about this, numerous other competitors have come out. So there's Vigo makes one, and they're the same one people who make the garden beds that I have, and theirs is less expensive. It's smaller, but it's a really similar system. And then there's also bigger ones that are more like an actual garbage can size that you keep on the floor. So that one's a little more expensive. But so if the Lomi itself one is either not in your budget or you're not about it, there are actually other price point options and other styles and stuff. So if you've been thinking about a composter of this nature, and basically what it does is it takes the place of a compost bin in your house, and it's it plugs in and it sort of munches. This microphone placement is going to be a problem. It munches down all of your compostables instead of just keeping them in a bin and taking them out. It uses
heat
heat and little burrs or whatever and turns it into sort of fluffy.
Loam.
It's not quite, loam. Yeah, it's not quite compost, but it's sort of a compost additive. And I mean, my favorite thing about it versus a compost bin is it makes it one so that I never have to touch compost. Because the product it makes is so much less disgusting.
Yes.
It is so...
It's not sloppy. It's not... The first batch I made, I did this thing where they said to add a little bit of water to it with one of these little pills you can put in there that supposedly helps the process. I did that once. It came out sloppy. Ever since then, I stopped putting in the water, stopped putting in the pill, and it's great. It comes out fluffy and dry.
Oh, I put the pill in, but I don't put water in.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And it's dry, and actually, it smells kind of like baking bread a little bit.
A little bit, yep.
It doesn't, and it just... There's no... I just remember having to, take out the compost and having it be in, the green compost bag, which is always leaking somehow. Yeah. You always have coffee juice or whatever. Just, all of that is gone with this. And so that, for me, is Incredible. Also,
That-
it really cuts down on the stink just generally because the container itself is very stink proof. Like, we have it sitting on our counter and you don't smell it.
That's really interesting. So just, I don't need to get totally sidelined on this, but you will be unsurprised to hear that I actually still do it in a more difficult way because we still have a compost bin, like one of those metal specific compost bins on the counter next to our sink, and it's got the filters and everything, and this is the same one we've been using, or the same style we've been using for years. We swap them out every now and then as they start to rust out, but and then I transfer it out of there into the Lomi, and maybe I'll stop doing that, but for me, I'm not married yet to having the Lomi out at all times. Maybe I will. I think that was one of the reasons my buddy didn't want it anymore, is it's really big. You have to really be committed to this thing. When I say really big, I mean it sits on the countertop, but it takes up a lot of space. We have ours on our kitchen table. So, I'm still dealing with, I know exactly what you're talking about, the green compostable bag that drips a little bit of the coffee ground still. But usually what I'm doing, though, is pulling that over to the Lomi. And by the way, the Lomi has several settings. We're talking about what you can put in there. One of the settings will allow you also to put in, like, products that are compostable, like those green bags, or like compostable, I think even straws. I'm not sure. You'd want to read the directions before you take my advice on it. But takeout boxes, like if you put it on the right setting, like the Lomi standard setting or whatever it's called, it can handle that stuff too, which is really, really cool. So here's the deal. This was, I'm going to guess maybe it was around 2 years ago. My buddy says, I heard you talking about these things. I bought one. It's not really working for us. I mean, it was functioning. It just didn't fit his lifestyle in a way that he liked, so he gave it to me. Very, very, very nice gift. I was like, sure, I'll take it for a walk, as they say. And I talked about it on the show. I really fell in love with it. First of all, I love little processes. I love making stock and doing other things that feel like I'm being productive when I really don't have to do much more than like kind of push a button. I like those types of things. And so this thing you can put on the shortest setting, which I think is like maybe 3 hours, or the longest setting, which can be 5 to 7, maybe. I could be wrong about that.
Something like that, yeah.
And then there's a middle one, and we tend to do the middle one, which is, about 4 hours or something. You kind of set it and you walk away. Now, I was really enjoying it. I was enjoying getting the loam out of there. I'll say this maybe as another PSA for other people who maybe are misunderstanding the assignment a little bit. I was treating it like it was dirt because it comes out and it looks like dirt. It's an additive, like you purposely pointed out there, like add it to your topsoil or your I was repotting some indoor plants the other day, so I added a little bit to the potting soil. At first, I was just replanting plants with it, like repotting plants with just loam, and that was a bad idea because it is just food compost, and it just
does
like
get funky.
It locks up into one big clump after a while, and it can get moldy because it's food waste, so be careful with that. But as an additive, it was so great to take this thing that I was taking out to the curb in our municipal compost, but instead seeing it turn into something, having a bucket on the back porch that I just keep adding this loam to. Genevieve loves it for outdoor gardening, which she'll be doing in a couple of weeks here, so we're big fans. And then about a year ago, and I can't remember to what degree I talked about this with you, Hannah, it kind of stopped working for us. And it started to...
I remember this.
It got noisy. It started to stink. This is where I need to be a little bit careful with all the ins and outs of this, but because I can get into too many details too quickly, as you know. But
who, you?
Yeah, right. You know what? I can say that, Hannah. You can't. And so I am somebody who is a troubleshooter. I like, especially, I'm pretty comfortable with technology and like going online and seeing what people are saying about this stuff. And essentially what I realized was there's a fan in the bottom of this thing that has to do with obviously the aeration process and managing smell and all these things. And it was a common thing that these fans go bad on the Lomis. And so I read about that. I'm like, well, I want to see what's going on here. So I, followed some instructions online, not the official Lomi instructions, just like from people discussing this on YouTube and whatnot. So I turn the thing over and I take out the fan and I look at it. And I think it eventually got to the point where the fan stopped working totally, and I got like a flashing red light that said the machine was saying, I will not work anymore, right? It wasn't just like working improperly. It said, something's wrong with me. I'm not going to work anymore. And I think it was flashing a red light that specifically indicated this is a fan issue, right? From my research. So I took it apart, and one thing that sort of made me nervous was when I took off the fan, they have one of those things where the fan casing is pretty easy to take out if you know what you're looking for. It's on the bottom of the machine, but they put some sort of a product sticker over top of the screws you need to unscrew, and I think it's only like 2 screws, but it's one of those things that I think they do purposely so that it's clear if you've broken that seal. You know, and the thing about these Lomi machines are, I'm from a generation where I think of my technology or my machines, especially my household devices, along the lines of vacuum cleaners or toasters or things that are like mechanical, right? But a Lomi is very much a modern piece of equipment that is more like a computer that does something, you know? And so they're going to have tech support that is going to be more in line with tech support when your Apple computer goes down and you got to get on the, I don't know, do people get on the phone with Apple computers, with their Macintosh computers? I'm clearly a PC guy. Maybe you just take it to the Apple store and they fix it for you. But
no, what you do is you host a seance with a Ouija board, and you
Right.
call to Steve Jobs,
right.
and then he answers you that way.
Well, that is good to know. And rest in peace, Steve Jobs, I assume. I guess. I don't know. I don't care. But as somebody who uses PCs like Dells and stuff, and also has very specific like kind of audio needs, it's not uncommon for me to find a bug in something or something I need to figure out, and then I find myself in this world of customer service where I need to get through several layers of convincing the people on the other end that I know what I'm talking about. Don't just send me a link to the tutorial that I've already read online. You know what I mean? And there's these layers.
The part where you're like just having to assure them, like, no, I Googled it.
Exactly.
I am a proficient enough Googler. After you've already, of course, gone hoarse from just yelling human person
Yeah, right.
into the phone.
0, 0, 0, 0. Operator. Operator. So anyway, so I'm always, and even like with companies I've worked for before, like the last company I worked for is a big, national company, a radio concern out of the Midwest. But like, I would have to, when something was wrong with one of my pieces of equipment or my company issued computer, it'd be like sort of the same thing. Like I had to earn their trust that yes, I turned it off and turned it on again. Like the tech people need to know that if I'm calling you, you are my last resort, because I do not want you just to send. I know what happens. You just send me links to things I've already read and then blame me somehow, So I have this real defensive sort of knee-jerk reaction to that. So back to the Lomi. I'm reading about this stuff online. I do take the fan out. I examine it a little bit. I get it working again so that it doesn't totally shut down on me. But the fan is super loud. It's stinky. So stinky. Like it smells like glue and vinegar when I run it. This is, again, about a year ago. And I'm like, okay, this thing is broken. I know what the problem is. It is the fan. So I write to Lomi. I dread it, but I write to Lomi. And I say, this is what's going on. And they're like, oh, I'm like, it's clear I need a new fan, right? And I'm like, can you send me one? I didn't say, can I buy it? I would have been willing to buy it, but whatever. I'm like, can you send me a new fan?
You don't want to start with that. Your opening gambit is $0.
Exactly. Could you send me $50 and a new fan, please? That was my opening gambit.
I would like you to send me a gift card and also a new fan for the inconvenience of me having to send this email.
Could you send me a mint condition?
Yes. A brand new Lomi, actually.
A brand new Lomi. A mint condition junior baseball card from when was Junior a rookie? I'm trying to think. 91 maybe, 90, I don't know. Anyway, point is, bad aside there. Bad attempt at a joke when I didn't know the facts behind it. So I write in. Now, this is where I shouldn't get into all the details, but I do something a little bit tricky, which is I just tell them I am getting this light on my Lomi. It won't work anymore. I'm pretty sure it's the fan based on everything I've read online. Keep in mind,
without telling them that you broke the seal?
Without telling them that I broke the seal. And actually, keep in mind, I was getting the light. It totally wouldn't work. I fixed it enough so that the machine would turn on, but it still was clearly malfunctioning and stinky and loud, and the fan was busted. But I didn't get into that part with them that I had already tried to fix it by taking it out and cleaning the fan and stuff. I just said, I'm getting the red light and it will not go on. And they're like, great. can you please send us a video of exactly what happens when you turn it on? We want to see the red light to confirm that. And it was literally, they said a video, not a photo. These are the details I didn't want to get into. But if you're following along so far, what I ended up doing is I had fixed it to the point where it was hobbling along. Now I had to go back in and actually unplug the fan, put it back together, turn it on so I could recreate getting that red light and the total non-workingness of the whole situation, take a video of that, and send that back to them. Here's the red light.
So one lesson here is, for especially for those of us who are like, tinkerers, I will say, and also for those of us who like to get in there and clean our appliances, because I think you and I are the same in this. Like, if my Dyson starts making a weird noise, I'm gonna get in there and try and clean it. I'm going to get, I'm gonna come at it with whatever mineral oil and Q-tips, and I'm gonna get in there. Take a video of whatever the error message is.
Good call.
Before you do your little DIY type thing.
Yes, good call.
And so you have that proof, because I bet that's actually a not uncommon thing for customer service to ask you about.
Especially for something that is very tech-focused like this. So my experience with this company is not like, hey, my Hoover vacuum isn't working. It's more like my Dell computer isn't doing what I need it to do, and so I'm getting sort of engineers writing back to me, right? So they're like, take a video of this, so I have to kind of rig it up so it's fully broken again, take the video, send it back to them, because I don't want... And I also am on dubious ground here, because they're going to ask, in the same way, like when you buy a computer, there's sort of a record of you buying that and you're in their system, and it's kind of this is sort of a boutique product and service. And so they're like, we don't have your name in here, and it's like, oh no, because it's this friend of mine who's actually a listener of TBTL, who I know, I've hung out with this guy before. I consider him a friend, but he's not a friend that I have known for years and years, and we're super close, right? And so I'm already not I'm not registered in their system. So they're already like, well, what do you got, a black market Lomi? I just feel this cloud of just sort of suspicion around me with this machine. So I send them the video after sort of re-breaking it fully. And they're like, okay, well, I think what the problem is you need to clean out your fan. I'm like, yeah, I already did this. They're like, please follow these instructions, which I'd already done, to take out the fan and tap it on the counter a few times and then put it back in and let us know if it works. Now, this is where I just stopped trying. I was like, I already did that. I already did that. I had to pretend I didn't do that because I didn't want to get hollered at. I'm like, they're not helping me. They're just telling me to do the same things. And I was like, I will do that at another time. Just take it out one more time, tap it on the table, because they thought a little piece of charcoal, which is used as the filtering device, maybe got stuck in there. And that might have been originally what happened. But I just didn't feel like writing back to them and saying, I've already done that. I just was kind of done with it. I put it in the closet. And I kept thinking, I will deal with this. And I told Genevieve, I'll deal with this. And then Genevieve was sort of kind of cleaning out that closet a while back, and was kind of she asked me several times over the course of the year, what are we doing with this Lomi? She's like, I'd like to get it working again, but if we're not, I'd like to get my closet space back. And I'm like, absolutely.
At the point at which you put it in the closet and you said, I'll deal with this, what is the percentage in her mind that she was thinking, the fuck you will?
That's a good question, because I don't know that I am, if I've developed enough of a pattern for her to be predictable in that particular way, because I do like messing around with things. And so it's not unlike me to maybe get a wild hair and just say, okay, I'm going to dig into this technical issue right now. But there are times where I just sort of feel overwhelmed, or there's some sort of kind of psychological element to it. In this case, for me, it's not feeling like being talked down to by the folks at Lomi again. And so I can tell you how I felt about it, which was I truly did think at one point I just need to get this thing back out, unscrew it again, tap it, and tell them, I tried your process, it didn't work, sell me a new fan, But I just got a mental block about it. So my intentions were good, but I just never got around to it. And then finally, Genevieve literally, I'm going to say about a month ago, was cleaning out the closet and said, she's like, really, can we like just look at this? I'm like, yeah, let's do this together. And like somehow like bringing her into it just sort of helped me psychologically. I'm like, let's do this. It's like literally we take it out of the closet, we flip it upside down, we take out, you do have to get the filters and stuff out of there, take out 2 screws, tap the fan, put it back in, it won't work again, and we can get back to them. And so we do all of that, and of course it still doesn't work. We ran a test load, and we did run it for the full cycle of like a few hours. It was loud as hell because the fan was now technically working, or it was spinning, you know, but it wasn't doing its job, and the kitchen reeked again. Again, a very strong, gluey, vinegary
I can't believe
smell.
You ran it in your house. I feel like
I probably should have done my garage for that.
Something.
It had been a while. So I had kind of forgotten about the smell issue that went along with it. It also, by the way, another indicator was that it was creating a lot of condensation underneath it. It was creating like a lot of like wet. So it clearly was just a filtration issue. It was like the fan was broken. Everybody online was like, we've had to replace the fan. I was in forums where people were like, can you get these fans sourced for the right voltage and ohms without going through Lomi? Because this is a part you could get from like Temu for like $3 or whatever.
Right, like
you know,
what is the actual specification of this fan so I could just go to the hardware store?
Right, and so there were tons of discussions about that. And so I was like pretty deep in this stuff. And other people were like, yeah, because Lomi charges like $40 for one or something like that. And so I was looking at all this stuff, and then so I tell Genevieve all this. We try it one more time. We run that load. It's terrible. She's like, I will take care of this. She's like, forward me the email, because I was just like, I had this just psychological block about writing back to Lomi and trying to like tell them I'm not an idiot. I just need a fan, you know. So Genevieve's like, I will do it. Genevieve doesn't take.
So it's their perceived incompetence, like of you,
yes,
that forms this block.
Yes, and just not, and already having exchanged a couple of emails and just feeling like I'm not going to get. It just felt futile to me that I'd be able to get them to listen to me and do it. And Genevieve's like, I'll get them to listen to me. So she writes back. She said, we followed all these processes. It is still happening. It's clear that we need a new fan or something. They wrote back to her, I think, the next day, and it was similar. It was sort of a similar, well, have you tried this now? Could you please try this before we send you a new fan?
Every time. Yeah, and it's just because they have like their little tree, right? It's the customer service tree, right?
Exactly.
That they have to go through the steps. If not this, then this. If this,
flow
then
chart.
that. Yeah,
Exactly. So Genevieve writes back. She's like, I'm not doing this. She's like, I'm with you. I'm not doing this. She's like, I'm writing one more email. I'm telling them, you will sell me a fan right now, or this is the end of the conversation. We're throwing the thing away. Yeah. And she got an email back, and they said, we'll sell you a fan for $40.
Great.
She's like, I'm not following any more of your steps. Sell us a fan. I'm not even asking for a free fan.
Sell
my money. Sell me a fan. Take my money. Overcharge me $40 for something that probably cost you $3 when you buy it in bulk, right? Mm-hmm. So they do it. They send a fan. And now in my head, I'm still kind of like, I wonder if this will still fully fix the problem. I mean, clearly the fan is broken,
right?
But I'm also wondering, are there downstream issues as well? Like, whatever. I'm not 100% sure the fan. Oh, actually, while Genevieve was waiting for the $40 fan, she also bought like an off-brand fan or whatever, off the like just the regular open market. But she's like, I don't know, the ohms don't match up. It probably won't matter. I'm like, I think that's going to matter. She's like, well, one guy posted on Reddit that it worked for him. I'm like, I don't trust this guy. We got that fan from God knows where. Plugged it in, totally didn't work. The red light went on again. I'm like, yeah, I knew that wasn't going to work. You need the specific electrical specs. Lomi finally sends us a new fan. We plug it in. It's quiet. And it works, and it whirs away for 4 hours. And in these 4 hours, I remember how much I loved the process of Lomiing. And the idea of taking this fluffy dirt out and putting it, and like, not only is it useful for us for gardening and everything, it very much fits into things I like to do, my puttering around the kitchen and taking garbage and making something useful out of literal garbage. Like, it just, and I was like, Vives, thank you so much for making this work again. I'm like, it still kind of stinks, doesn't it? She's like, yeah, it does, it's still a little bit stinky.
Well, you probably need to replace your charcoal too.
Well, that's the thing. I was thinking, I know that when I was troubleshooting all of this, I replaced the charcoal. So for folks who don't can't kind of quite picture this, there are two filters on this machine, but they're not like filters that you just slide into your vacuum or furnace or something. They're literally these containers, plastic containers that you pour loose charcoal pebbles in that look like rabbit food, right? Like little black rabbit.
I was going to say rabbit turds, but yeah.
Or rabbit turds, yeah. Why do I can't tell the difference between rabbit turds and rabbit food.
Honestly,
why do my rabbits keep dying?
It looks the same going in as it does coming out. I'm not even sure anything happens inside a rabbit. It's just a chute.
It's just a funnel. Anyway, so the thing that I'm thinking here is, God, we got this thing working thanks to Genevieve and her just like no bullshittedness. And it's working now.
That's the two types of people, right? People who are so annoyed by being viewed as incompetent that they won't do something, and then people
crawl under the couch.
Yeah, and then people who are like, I fucking dare you to see me as incompetent.
Right. Yeah. So I'm very happy now, and I'm enjoying it, but I'm like, God, it's stinking again. And I'm like, Vives, I don't think it's just the filter, the charcoal, because I know that when I was troubleshooting all of this, I had replaced it then, I'm like, but we did run it a few times and whatever.
And it did
sit. So I'm like, for a year. And I'm like, I just don't think that's it. But I'm like, you know what? I'll try it. I'll go online. And I think, again, it was like $40, maybe 50 with shipping for 2 bags of this charcoal, which should be, I don't know how often you're supposed to replace it. And in the back of my head, I'm like, I don't think this is going to work. Because I'm pretty sure this is relatively new charcoal. I did find a little bit left over that I had, so I'm still waiting for the new charcoal to arrive, but I found like 1 bag of it left over from that my friend Brent sent me originally, and I replaced most of it, and I'm like, I'll just give this a shot while I wait for the new stuff. It totally worked. It must have been just running it, maybe with the fan broken, maybe the charcoal absorbed so much, because there's no way to tell. Like when you think about changing a filter, it's going to be coated in dust
dirty,
or smell. And I'm smelling this stuff. It hasn't maintained any smell.
Charcoal too, and especially you said it was like there was a lot of condensation. I think when it gets wet, it's not so useful anymore. Because I think that's the other thing is. Yeah, because I replace the charcoal. I think you're supposed to replace it every like 6 months or something. Mm-hmm. I replace it mostly just when it starts to smell more. When I'm smelling it more as it's running, I'm like, okay, that's probably a good sign. But you're right; it looks the exact same. It doesn't. The charcoal itself doesn't smell. It doesn't pick anything up. It is just little charcoal pellets, and I keep wondering if I could just like buy like activated charcoal, but.
We're going to look into that next, because Genevieve's like, we kind of overpaid probably by buying that from Lomi. But I was just so joyous that I was kind of dubious. I was like, it's working again. We could just keep it and run it out in the garage maybe, but we wouldn't get as much use out of that. And then just... honest to God, changing the charcoal just like they would have said if I had written in. And it totally works. And now we have a Lomi, and my relationship with my Lomi starts anew today, because I'm in love with it again. I almost threw this thing off a cliff, which wasn't probably the most responsible thing to do, but I wanted to really show it how mad I was.
Well, sometimes you just can shake a fist and it sends the same message.
Sure.
I mean, I really think because like food waste obviously is a problem in the United States. And the desire when like I clean out our refrigerator like once a week, probably. I go through and whatever little leftovers we haven't eaten, whatever takeout boxes in the before times, BL before Lomi, I would, a lot of times if something was gross and it was in a plastic container and it was very clearly past its time, listen, I'm not perfect. I would just throw that shit away because it was gross and I didn't want to deal with it. If it was in a reusable container, I would like scoop all of my reusable containers out into one compost bag, take that out, and then obviously rinse out all of my containers. And it was a horrible process. It took a really long time. Now, when I clean out my refrigerator, it takes seconds because I do it right before, as the Lomi's getting pretty full. Like, I do it around the same time, and I just scoop everything into the Lomi. All the leftovers just go right in there, and then I run it, and it's great. And it's not yucky, it's not messy. I don't have to worry about the smell. It makes keeping food out of the landfill a lot easier. And I think now that this technology has started to become more common in the last couple of years, I think we're going to start to see, one, the prices come down, and two, hopefully start to see them be less complicated and start to see them be more common and more accessible and more affordable, like, garbage disposals.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, because I think it's something that there is a demand for, especially, I mean, you and I have both lived in places that have municipal compost, but we have listeners who have told us about keeping compost in their freezers and taking it to the dump once a month or whatever. And I think about places where they don't have municipal compost, and something like a Lomi would be great, because even if all you do is break it down and then just put the fluffy loam into your trash, like, even that is better as far as garbage volume, as far as methane and breaking down compost material. So I'm really hoping that we'll see a proliferation of this. And part of that will require people not only using them, but like bothering to troubleshoot with them and doing what you did and like keeping them alive, because if they're not, just a like one and done throwaway device, that telegraphs to the makers that this is something people are actually willing to keep working with, and this is something that is an investment of time.
And also, if their fan keeps breaking, they also should
just
look into that.
Just put it on the site. Also, just list it on the site. Just put the fan on the site for people to buy.
That's one, but also maybe look at why are your fans breaking all the time too.
Can we figure out a way, or if it happens often enough, pack it with a replacement fan, or and especially, it's hard when things are new, and I feel like this was a real problem with the first few generations of Dyson vacuums, especially the cordless ones. It takes a few years of things being on the market for users to find the pitfalls and for the usage to show where the weaknesses are. Mm-hmm. And so I think now, after having enough people using the device for enough time, maybe it'll start, if there's enough people on Reddit trying to figure out where else to get a fan, then hopefully R&D is moving in the direction of like, maybe let's figure out what is wrong with this fan.
It's pointless for me to even start the sentence, but it's driving me bananas. I was using, maybe I'll think of it by the end of the show, but unlikely. I was using something the other day where I was like, whoever made this thing never used it. Like, whoever made this thing never used it, because there was some kind of functionality that I was like, are you kidding me? If you ever used this thing, you would be as frustrated as I am right now. I cannot remember what it was.
We had this experience. Oh, my God.
Are you trying to remember something now?
No, I know
okay,
exactly
good,
what it was.
Good.
In our never-ending quest to reduce plastic in our household, we have been buying more compostable sandwich bags.
Okay.
I have tried to use reusable sandwich bag type things, but again, sometimes you put soy chorizo in a reusable bag and it stains the bag so ruthlessly that there's just no coming back from it, and now it's just a soy chorizo bag for the end of days. And the reusable ones are very expensive, and sometimes it's nice, like, when I walk the dog, I have a bag of dog treats with me all the time, so every single one of my coats needs to have a little bag of dog treats in it, and a little compostable sandwich bag is perfect for that. So I got one kind from Grove that was great. They're green, they open and shut, they work well, and then I don't feel as bad about throwing them out or throwing them in the Lomi because they compost, right? So I got a different kind that was at Target one time because this was before we weren't shopping at Target, which is critical in the tail now. Mm-hmm. So here in Washington and parts of Oregon, we have another service called Ridwell, which collects other waste products that are not collected by municipal waste. So they take plastic film, they take clothing and other fabrics, odd socks, sheets with holes in them, like fabric recycling, and then they pick up other things, corks, prescription bottles, but they don't take batteries anymore in Portland.
Oh, really?
Because now...
That was how the whole business started, was battery recycling.
I know. But
I
now,
know that because I'm going to say something very young here, Hannah. I read all about the backstory of Ridwell recently in an article my dad sent me from the Saturday Evening Post. I shit you not. Anyway, I found the backstory very interesting. It was about him and his son trying to find a way to recycle batteries and then finding a process to do that, and then it grew from there. They went around the neighborhood collecting batteries, etc.
I don't know how they got Norman Rockwell's ghost to illustrate a picture of a Ridwell box.
I'm sending you the article. It was good.
We were really early on Ridwell. As soon as we moved into an apartment that had a stoop, and we lived in Finney, I was like, we're doing this. I picked up immediately. And then we moved to Portland, and I wrote them an email, and I was like, hi, I'm moving to Portland. Please tell me the second you start service in Portland, because I will be first to sign up. And they did, and I was. And now everybody in our neighborhood has Ridwell, and I love it.
Great.
But Portland started collecting batteries.
Oh.
And so Ridwell doesn't pick them up in Portland anymore. But the way the city of Portland collects them is really stupid. So you have to have all your batteries in a plastic Ziploc bag, and all of the end nodes need to be taped over. And then you put them in, of all bins, the glass recycling bin, the open-topped recycling bucket that glass is in.
That's interesting. We have just mixed recycling in Seattle, so I don't have to separate glass from plastic, from metal, from cardboard.
Oh, yeah, you have commingling.
Yeah.
No, we have the glass bin is separate. It's just like an open top bin. And, well, it's also, in part, it's because we have can and bottle return here. So you get money back for cans, the deposit. So we didn't have any clear plastic bag, like Ziploc bags. That's not a thing we had. So I was like, oh, I will go pick some up that are the compostable type, because the other kind we have are not clear. They're not see-through. So I pick some up. And when I say these are the most utterly useless product, there is not a snowball's chance in hell that anybody actually touched this product, used this product, maybe even looked upon this product before it hit the shelves. This compostable plastic bag is not a bag. So first of all, as soon as you go to open it, it rips. Every single one. Every single one. The Ziploc thing just shreds.
Is it because it locks too tight and the material is too flimsy? I get that sometimes.
But it's every single one. And then you can't... Peeling the bag open is like peeling a fruit roll-up apart.
Ugh.
But you can't. There's no separation. And then when you do manage to do it, you can't actually open the bag to any real degree. The entire thing. But I had this experience where I was like, did any human person use this product before it made it to the shelves? And I can't take it back because I'm not going to fucking Target.
Yeah, right. And how many do you have? Bought a box of 20 or 40 or something?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And they're compostable, so I'm like, I'm probably just going to dump them all in the compost. And they weren't. It's not like they were incredibly expensive, but also I need to go like pick it outside and be like, go to hell, Target, and also nobody buy this product.
Yeah, right. I like the idea that you're the only one who's boycotting Target for this reason. Like
well, on my sign, on one side it's yes DEI, on the other side it's no shitty compost bags.
Right.
But like it just, I know.
They are see-through though. By the way, I'm sorry to not take away.
That's
this is
all
not the
they
point
have
of
going
your
for
story.
them.
But like, I didn't even know that they made compostable bags that were see-through. All the ones I get are that like kind of translucent green color.
Right, that's the ones we always get.
Yeah,
well, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't
make them. They don't. They tried.
Make something.
They tried and they sell it, but they don't. They didn't actually make what
I don't know what it is that they're actually making. But yeah, that experience when you get something and there's a moment where you're like, a number of human adults had to be party to this thing going from concept to store shelves. And everyone along the way had to say, yeah, this is fine. Yep, this is great.
I'll take these home. These are great. Kick the tires a little bit on this.
We all tried this, and this is good. I could fit a sandwich in this. No,
like, do the people who make that use them even just in their own life? Because you would think that,
clearly
like, if you work for, like, you know, if you're Mr. Coca-Cola, you're probably drinking Coca-Cola at home, right? Like, you're not probably drinking
You're not drinking Pepsi.
Right, exactly. Do you know that Genevieve did work for a company? She worked for a PR firm that handled Microsoft stuff, and so she couldn't have any smartphone other than whatever the microphone smartphone was back in the day. It was like
that doesn't surprise me at all. That does
yeah.
not.
And she has a friend. Genevieve grew up in Atlanta, home of Coca-Cola, and where Mr. Coca-Cola lives.
Sure.
And she has a friend who was saying that, like, yeah, there are huge repercussions. Like, you cannot drink anything other than Coke. I mean, I think you Coke brand water. I think they own Aquafina or whatever. But like the idea, if you were to bring go into a meeting like pre-COVID when we're having in-person meetings, but I'm sure it applies still to this day. If you're drinking a bottled water that is owned by a different parent company, like you're in trouble. You cannot drink other products.
Many, many years ago, I was working as a freelancer, and one of my freelance clients was Seattle's Best Coffee, RIP.
Oh, yeah.
And it was before Starbucks, because I think Starbucks ended up buying Seattle's Best.
That sounds right, yeah.
But I remember all of the people who worked at Seattle's Best were militantly anti-Starbucks. You couldn't drink anything from Starbucks. Everything had to be Seattle's Best, which was very challenging, even in the city of Seattle.
Yeah.
And I just remember one of the guys coming into one of the meetings, and he had what was so clearly a Starbucks cup fitted into what was also very clearly a prototype of a Seattle's Best cup.
Uh-huh.
And what had obviously happened was the dude wanted a coffee on the way to the meeting, and there wasn't a Seattle's Best anywhere, because of course there wasn't. And he grabbed a prototype out of one of the offices and put his Starbucks cup inside of it so that he could then go into the meeting.
I'm looking this up to see if I'm right about this. Isn't that called Greeking when you do it to maybe it's not Greeking as I'm trying to talk and Google at the same time, but there's a term for that when you're doing that to props in a movie or a TV show. If you can't show, because John Mulaney had a bit on one. He has this live show now that airs on Wednesdays, and it's really messy and live, and I kind of like it, although sometimes it's really frustrating too. But I think it's a interesting, beautiful thing. And anyway, he had some SpawnCon where one of those little robots that are all over LA, not Waymo, I can't remember what the brand is. It comes in, this little robot cart rolls onto the set unannounced, and he's like, oh, I guess this is a sponsorship, and he opens it up and he starts handing all of his guests like Ben Stiller and Nick Kroll and everybody, he's handing them various Coke, sodas or whatever, but he's like, they're all Greeked, and then Ben Stiller starts peeling it off, and he's showing Quinta, what's Quinta's last name?
Brunson.
Quinta Brunson. He's showing her, he's like, look, it's Coke under here, and they're just doing it live on TV. They had taken obvious Gatorade bottles and just taken the Gatorade label off, but it's that is a very recognizable shape of a bottle as a Gatorade bottle. Anyway, your coworker was Greeking his Starbucks, it sounds like, although I don't think I got that. Here it is. Greeking, product displacement stickers for film and TV. You can actually buy Greek labels. Oh, a lot of them are to cover up the Apple logo on your Macintosh computer.
I'm sure. I mean, we see that all the time. Yeah. That makes sense.
Interesting. Okay, so we did spend a lot. Okay, listen. I would like to not apologize. Actually, I apologize too much. I would like to thank you and the listeners for allowing me to take up literally a half hour of the show with my Lomi story. But I really did. Oh, and also hello, Mr. Bingo Cat, who just came in here. I really was excited to tell you about that. And again, I don't know exactly what the moral of the story or what the power out is here, but I just love that through a little bit of grit and determination, mostly on Genevieve's part, we are back in action. And I'm really glad that I didn't just throw it away, because I was so mad and frustrated with sort of the service that I was like, I don't need this thing. I did fine in my life before I had this thing, and it would have been very easy for me to get, like you mentioned, we're lucky enough here in Seattle to have curbside composting too, so it wasn't like I was returning to some, dark ages of having to throw my produce just into the regular garbage can and having it stink and all of that stuff. I still had a very workable option of taking it to the curb, and I could have just done that the rest of my life. But now that I'm back into Lomi, I'm like, I forgot how much I love this damn thing. So that's both a sort of a cautionary tale and an endorsement at the same time. We do have some emails from listeners that hopefully we'll get to in a little bit. I want to give folks the phone number. If you want to call our voicemail line, or the spot line, as Hannah calls it, call 469-9274. That's 508-HOW-WASH. You can email us at spotlesspod@gmail.com or record a voice memo and send it that way. You can find us on Instagram at SpotlessPod and YouTube at SpotlessPod or Spotless Podcast, where you've been posting the shows, Hannah. And speaking of, we'll get to this in a little bit, but a really, really interesting comment from a listener came to us via the YouTube comments. So thank you for that, for checking that out. Hannah, I know you're putting a lot of work into those videos, so thanks for doing that, and everybody should reward you by watching them.
Or at least subscribing. You don't even have to watch them, but you should subscribe.
How many, should I even ask, or is it too embarrassing? How many subscribers do we have right now?
I think we have
just blink once.
22. I don't know.
22,000
yes,
subscribers?
Wow. That many.
That's better than I thought.
That's probably about how many there are, I bet. Yeah, but it is, it's nice for people who are more visual if they want to watch us do this. And it is a nice way also to get in touch with us, because there's so few of you who watch it that we will definitely see your comments.
That's right. And if you want to play a game, I got a haircut recently. You know, I've been balding for quite some time now, but I'm now at this point where the balding is almost complete to about halfway back up my head, except I just have these two tiny little tufts here in front that are driving me crazy. And I'm hoping that maybe, I don't know, Hannah, how long do you give it for this to hang onto my head? I'm putting you on the spot here. I'm hoping that I just want it gone, you know? Like, I don't want this in-between thing. And so if you're watching the video, maybe in a year from now, will that just be gone?
No, you're going to die with those tufts.
No,
no, those are the kind. No, those are the kind that are just going to hang on there. Yeah.
No, see, I don't mind being a bald, but I don't like this in between shit. It's a very bad look.
You're not that lucky.
That gives everybody something to look forward to. Like, I don't know, like rings on a tree or something. You can
just
watch
like taking prop bets.
You can watch me bald in real time. I'll try not to wear hats. So, Hannah, before we get on to some of these emails and emails, though, I know that you've had some projects going on at your place. Where do you want to start? You got two big updates here.
I do. I have two big updates. One is that down here in the my hair is being really weird. Down here in the pod cave / the guest room / my office.
I like the way that you're rubbing the fact that you have hair in my face right now. That is.
Sorry, that was a really ill time.
Oh, sorry. My long, full hair. It's just, it's so bountiful. It's hard for me to keep it under control.
It's not staying, and it's hair tie. There's so much of it.
Yeah.
It is very thick. And
anyway,
unruly.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
So the listeners might recall that for a very long time down here, there was one wall that was blue, like robin's egg blue, and I really, really hated it. And finally, I got that painted over. I spent 2 days painting down here, and so I no longer have a blue wall. We're going to paint over there.
Got some panning action going on here. It's also, you went with sort of, it's a little bit hard for, I also see, I see a Lola dog.
Yeah, there's Lola
napping
on
away.
her bed.
I can also see your trouble making a mic stand there that's causing you so much grief. But so how would you describe that? It's a white. It's a
it's like
neutral.
it's an off-white. It's a slightly less harsh white, a less reflective white. And then we used an old or like a paint color that we had used for some accents upstairs. And I painted myself a little pink accent wall over here. Which doesn't look that much different, but it is pink.
Okay, yeah, I kind of can't tell, but that's because of the camera, though, I think. I like an accent wall. I'm glad.
Yeah. So there's a little teeny dusty pink accent wall, which casts a really nice light, and it matches some of the other colors. So my little office down here is feeling very cozy, and I am really happy with it. And it was great to get it done. One, because it feels much more like my office now, but also two, the blue, every time I looked at it, it just stood out so much. And it made me feel very purposeful about resetting up this office because, of course, when you paint a room, you have to take everything out of it and then put it all back. But what that also made me do was I had to do a real pre-paint clean that had me doing the baseboards and every ledge and every windowsill, including I got my stick vacuum out and I vacuumed out the window ledge, like the window wells.
Yeah, like the sill, or I know what you're talking about.
So that felt
when
good.
you say stick vacuum, you're not talking about your Dyson. You mean like the little handheld, like the one you use in your kitchen or something?
Yeah, it's the little teeny one that is I don't know, it's like a foot long, maybe.
Yeah,
and it has just a little press button. Oh, it's the best, and it's it's USB charging, and it just sits on its little dock downstairs. I've gotten so much mileage out of that thing because it's one of those devices, and I think it was, I don't know, $30 American maybe.
Yeah.
I think I mostly added it to cart so I could get free shipping. But it's one of those things that when you have just like a little mess, and like I used it also, I spackled a couple of holes that were in the walls down here before I painted. And then when I sanded down the spackle, right, I have just like a little pile of sanded down dust. The little tiny vacuum was perfect for that because it can get into a little crevice. And it's one of those things where it's just the perfect tool for some tiny messes. And when you have that, oh, it just feels so good.
You know what? I'm sorry to change the subject briefly, but it just occurred to me this is relevant to yours and our audience's interest. Genevieve just did something like an hour ago that is new to us, which is, earlier this week we have one of those beds that opens, like, and there's a bunch of storage underneath the mattress thing. It's kind of heavy, you got to pull it up, but it kind of opens like a big jaw, right? And then underneath that is the size of the bed is storage, and we had way too much stuff in there. It's where we throw a bunch of linens and stuff, but Genevieve's been working on sewing projects, and it just had been a real mess. It was one of those things that it just started to snowball of messiness, right? And so, and most of it was a lot of Genevieve
That's
stuff.
a big storage space. That's a very
it's a
easy,
big, unorganized storage space, right? Yeah. One big rectangle
that's
like
just
that.
asking to become a pit.
Exactly. And it had become sort of a pit. And so, and I didn't realize what was happening underneath there. I had opened it up because when we had moved, I had like sort of finally weeded out all of our extraneous pillowcases and sheets and like actually set it up. I'm like, okay, we have 3 sets of bedding now, like kind of like an adult, not just mixing and matching my Star Wars
this is a thing though
with my Spider-Man sheets.
I had to go through at one point and actually match up all of our sort of spare or guest linens because I realized that I did not have all of our pillow shams and all of our different duvet covers and everything together because I had just been sort of putting them all in the linen closet.
And you grab one, you're like, this is basically the same color.
Right, and they're all sort of gray. Like, we do kind of tend to have them all in the same genre. And they are sort of like mix and match in color scheme, too. But I did make that project for myself recently because I realized you should know how many there are of each. You should be aware of this.
And also, like, the one will wear down sooner than the other. So anyway, I had done that, and then I went to change the sheets the other day, and it had been too long, and I opened up the bed, and I was like, oh my God, I can't see it. Genevieve had just put a bunch of like her sewing materials and stuff over top of everything. I was like, hey, listen, I understand, like, we only have so much room, but like we need access to the sheets and everything. So she's like, yeah, no problem. So I think it was motivating for her, something that she wanted to do for a while, which was like, sometimes the only way to do something like that is you just got to go big, kind of like you're saying. Like, if I'm going to do this project, I'm not just going to tackle one little part. I got to pull everything, everybody out, then everything back in. And she did it all herself, just like kind of randomly on a weeknight. And I appreciated that I got to see it today. But the one thing that she was sort of like pondering was like how much space some of our bedding takes up. Like maybe a couple of duvets, or like maybe if not technically a duvet, what we would call maybe a bedspread or something like quilt. I don't know exactly what the term would be, but sort of puffy bedding, right? And she's like, do they still make those bags, those vacuum pack bags, or could I just like make one? I'm like, I don't know. I guess I've seen those in commercials. She went to the store yesterday, bought it, and then like just moments before I dialed up with you, apparently it doesn't work on a Dyson. You need a specific kind of attachment, but we do have a shop vac that somebody again gifted me a year or two ago. So Genevieve got out the shop vac. I wasn't in the room, but I guess she just attached that to the special bag that she bought somewhere. And it's just like it literally vacuum packed our bedding. It's pretty impressive.
That, I feel like, is one of those things that has really fallen by the wayside.
It is old. It is kind of old fashioned, right?
I don't know if Gen Z knows that this is an option.
I didn't. I hadn't even really thought about it.
I have a very clear memory of my dad doing like the poor man's vacuum seal on like food.
Just kidding. Oh, on food.
Where he'd stick a straw into like a Ziploc bag and he'd go.
I kind of know that move.
But yes, I forgot people do it with bedding and coats. I know people do it with like winter coats. You can do it in the. Oh, we should do that with some of our like our snow pants and stuff too. The things that you really only bust out sometimes. That's a smart storage idea.
Yeah. I want to see if I can find a really cheesy commercial from like the 90s or something that
there's a good one.
I feel like there's got to be like this looks cheesy. I don't know if this is from the 90s.
This looks cheesy.
Let's see if this is any good.
My closet was a jungle, or at least it felt that way to me. It was cluttered, overstuffed, just plain disorganized. But I've given my closet a total makeover by using space bag storage packs. I've tripled my closet space, and now you can too. Just place your items into the space bag storage pack. Seal the airtight zipper, then vacuum out the air. Look how my things stay compressed.
She's just holding on a big flat. It looks like the bad guys in like, was it the second Superman movie or the first Superman movie where they're floating around in space in a 2-dimensional frame? Do you know what I'm talking about? It was their space prison. Anyway, keeping the references as fresh as possible as always. But yeah, this is corny as hell, but it honestly like saved us so much space under the bed.
I mean, yeah, especially I know Genevieve does a lot of sewing, and like sewing stuff and fabric can take up a lot of room, especially if you're working with batting, the interior stuff that if you're a quilter, the interior stuff that goes into quilting, it's tall, it takes up a lot. And so if you can compress that down, that's smart.
Yeah. And I'll see if it, I guess
Brilliant.
There's a chance that it could maybe not fluff up back to full form, but I'm not super worried about it. These are not like brand new.
If my Casper mattress that came in a ding-dang box fluffed back up, I bet.
Good call.
I bet.
All right, listen, so we are an hour into the show now. There's so much to talk about. I almost just want to do 2 shows because I don't want to, first of all, as far as just uploading video is concerned, I don't think we want to go too much over an hour. That's a lot of processing.
That is fair.
But there's so much to talk about. I did want to go back to your painting project because you had mentioned something before the show, which was like, I think your original idea was I need to take care of this blue wall behind me, right? It's driving me bananas. And we've talked about, your partner Keith also being a kind of a bit of a completist. And there's something that like sort of I was able to associate with something that you were saying before the show, which was I got the impression you were like, I'll just like, pardon the phrase, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, this blue wall, get it out of my life and just move on. And it sounded like Keith was like, well, if we're going to bring out all the painting stuff, let's just do it right and do it all. Let's get everything out of here and do a full paint job on the entire room, including ceilings and everything, which you guys did end up doing. But I got the impression that there's a little bit of tension there because I can associate with what he's saying. Like, that feels like a very Andrew thing. Like, well, if we're going to do it, let's do it right and let's do it all. But then that's also where I drag my feet because then it becomes such a huge project that I don't do it at all. Whereas Genevieve might be more like, I'm just going to do this wall right now. And I'm sick of thinking about it. And I'll throw down a little bit of the tarp and paint this wall and be done with it. How do you feel about it now that the project's all done? Are you kind of glad you did everything? Was it unnecessary?
I could have done with just painting the wall. I think it would be fine. I think it would have been fine to just paint the wall. I don't think we needed to do the whole thing. It's fine. But, I mean, I just think there's different ways to approach, your household projects. It's similar to, our upstairs bathroom is honestly hideous. Everything about it is ugly. And I desperately want to paint the cabinets and put on new hardware. It's a really minor project, and it would just make the inside of that bathroom look a little bit cuter. I could do it in a weekend, and then maybe also replace there's the one giant mirror that looks awful and is very outdated. I think taking that one giant mirror down and putting up 2 smaller, like more designy mirrors would look really great. And these are like very minor. I'm very into making minor improvements that we don't have to remodel the whole thing. We can just make small improvements that 1 will look better and 2 will make it easier to clean. Because the other thing is too, those cabinets are a terrible wood finish that are impossible to get clean. They are discolored as it is. And if I give them a nice paint job, then wiping them down is going to be a lot easier. And the same with the mirror. It's really hard to clean that mirror because it's kind of not very well affixed and it's really tall and I can't actually reach the top of it. And so like I am also thinking about ways to improve everyday life in that way. But for him, it's easier to just think about like, in 5 years when we remodel the bathroom, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Right? And so it is just easier for him to think about that. Like in 5 years, we'll do that, which is fine, except that every day for the next 5 years, And every week for the next 5 years, when I wipe the mirror down, which I do once a week, I will be thinking about how I wish that it was going to be easier every single week, and that there's 52 weeks in a year. And like, that's a lot of times to do that. And so I think that's the difference.
260 times.
Yeah. So I think that's the big difference in like how like a lot of, because it's the same with like downstairs, right? Downstairs, this is the office. Like, I am the only person who works down here. He has an office upstairs. He has a different office room. He is rarely in this room. Like, almost never he is in this room. I am in this room about 40 hours a week, if not more. And so for me, I look at the blue wall all the time and think about how much I hate it and how I want to change it. He only thinks about it if I bring it up. And so, like, it's easier for him to be like, yeah, well, you know, like, one of those days, like, some nice weekend, we will drag everything out and we'll deal with it, right? And so I think that's the other part of it is, like, I think the things I want to change around the house a lot of times are the things that, like, I clean all the time, that I take care of more, or that, you know, they're the things that have a greater impact on my life. And so I think that's another big part of it is just, like, whether or not it has a bigger impact on what I deal with every day, which is, I think, fair. And I'm sure that there are things that like he deals with every day that I don't necessarily deal with every day, so I don't think about them. And those are the things that he deals with a lot faster, honestly, which is things like the internet, you know, like when our internet was slow, he dealt with that really fucking fast. And it was because he was dealing with it every day, and that's like his purview, which is great. I benefit from that.
Let me ask you this. So you did, I think, if I understand it correctly, you were saying that because you did end up doing the full painting, you did kind of like the equivalent of us talking about Genevieve cleaning under the bed. It's like you pulled everything out of the office. You probably wouldn't have done that with the blue wall. You would have fixed the blue wall, done what you needed to do to get that done. But did you say that you've now sort of rearranged actually your positioning there as you do this podcast? And like, does it sort of sounds like I'm trying to like win or defend
justify
no, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just kind of curious though, like, because you guys as a couple did decide, okay, we're going to do the whole thing, does it also give you a little bit of a sense of like, I don't know, accomplishment, just knowing though that you didn't kick the can down the road on maybe thinking, but I still need to sort of rearrange the studio and be comfortable? Like, are you kind of glad that it's all done now? You don't even have to kind of really think about big picture stuff in this room for a while?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. I think I think that there wasn't necessarily big picture stuff that we needed. Like, I was never thinking about painting the ceiling at all. That was never part of the issue. The rest of the walls, honestly, were fine. Yeah, I mean, it is done now, which is nice. And, I mean, there's other things probably that could be done as far as, like, my, like, downstairs setup, like figuring out how to fix this microphone arm that is absolutely destroying my life. I'm going to
send you one. Just buy a new microphone arm.
You know what sucks too is like this one is new. Like Keith bought me this microphone.
Oh, it's not broken. It's just the.
Oh no, it's broken.
Oh, it is.
No,
okay.
It's new and broken, and that is just because, as my mother would say, I have a kinetic energy where things just break around me.
I keep telling you, you're talking too loud and too shrilly. You're too shrill, and the microphone.
Well, this is a known
can't
fact.
handle it anymore.
I know.
I tell you that before every show. I say stop being so shrill, but you just can't do it.
So my mom does actually. She will say that things just break in my presence. And she blames my kinetic energy.
I can sort of see that.
She says things just break. That I just break things like in my energy field.
I do feel that I break things because I do have a weird kinetic energy. Like I'm very fidgety. I remember being sort of young, like not like a child, but like maybe in high school or something. And like a friend had to point out to me, it was like, you can't go into my glove box every time you're in my car. Like I would just like not even think about it. I just like I'm always opening things and closing things, and just sort of fidgety. Yeah, and I do wonder how many things in my life are broken, especially like snaps on shirts, just from like sitting here doing a podcast and like snapping and unsnapping and snapping and unsnapping until it breaks. That has happened to me.
Well,
before.
That's why I have to have fake fingernails on. Is because
are those fake?
Yeah, they are.
Oh, I thought you had a fancy
no,
like paint job.
These are fake it's because I bite my fingernails, and if I don't have little plastic things stuck to the end of my fingers, it's because I will bite them to the nub.
By having them fake, you're not
correct. I can't get to them.
Oh, you can't get to them, right?
I can't get to them. So yeah, so we did get the paint job done, which is great, and so that's really lovely. The other thing I wanted to update the listeners on is that my new shower curtain finally came. I ordered it like a month ago.
Yes.
But
Describe it again, because is this one of those in-between ones we were talking about on the last show?
So this is a liner, but it's a heavier, slightly nicer liner from Outlines. I ended up going with Outlines, and the reason why is because, so it came in the mail, and it came with 2 shipping labels, or like with a shipping label and another little envelope, so that in 6 months, when they send me a new one, or a year, I think I had them send, I send the old one back to them. So they have a recycling program, and they send you the stuff so that you can send it back. So I'm very excited about this, because this really answers one of my big prayers about a potential shower liner. I do still have the curtain as well. I think I'm going to keep liner curtain system going, but it's a white liner, so it does do it. I think it's going to look a little nicer than the clear yucky one.
Yeah.
And it's bigger, and it's very hardy, and it has a little fold over on the top.
I'm looking at them online.
Yeah, they're nice, and it had a really good micro copy on the packaging, which I always really respect. So I'm hoping.
What do you mean? What does that mean?
It just had like little. It had little taglines, and like it said things to me like, "Oh, nice to see you," or whatever.
Okay.
I like that.
Just
it was
nice little packaging. I see.
Just like little lines of
Did you know that you got in under the wire too? Do you know that it's like, I'm on the website now. I'm not joking. It's sold out, and in order to get into this Outline shower liner system now, you have to join a wait list.
Oh
It says
gosh.
it says restock expected April 2025, and if you look at your calendar, it is April 2025 now. But apparently, they're looking to restock. So
Oh,
I
that's
don't know
probably
if it's
why
from
it took
you-
a month to get there.
Maybe, and maybe it's because you mentioned it on Spotless, and our 22 listeners heard it and all went out and got it. So anyway, that's
there's
pretty.
more
That's
than
kinda
22 in
satisfying.
general. There's just only 22 on YouTube. God.
That's
So,
cool, though. Yeah, this is very cool.
So I'm hoping to make a little video. Hopefully by the time the listeners are hearing or watching this, you can look on Instagram and see a video of how that goes. And then you'll also get a sneak peek at me trying to change out a shower curtain, which should be visually hilarious.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, and then I should make one of trying to stuff a duvet into a duvet cover. That's like one of my least favorite things in the world.
That's actually very easy. You just pitch the 2 corners together, do it, and then turn inside out.
Everybody always says that, but anyway, we don't have duvets and duvet covers anymore.
Oh.
We now just have like kind of a nice kind of. I tried to
A
describe
blanket?
it. Is it a
think it's
bedspread
just a
sort
blanket,
of?
yeah.
Well, it's like it's kind of quilty. It's like, and it's got a very nice bright design. I'll show you a picture of it. I'll send it to you. You can post it if you want. I have a incredibly cute picture of a little cross-eyed bingo cat playing with his cat toy on this very colorful bedspread, or for whatever it's called. I'll send it to you. So I realize I'm starting to talk very quickly here because there's so much to do, and I'm trying to keep an eye on the clock. I think, and I'm not trying to make executive decisions without you here, this comment that somebody left on last week's show about cleaning other people's spaces as opposed to your own, and why that might seem more appealing. It started because I was joking around about how Genevieve went to our Eagles Club and volunteered with a bunch of other people to do like a big cleaning day there. And I was just sort of teasing. It's an obvious joke. Like, what do I have to do to get that energy here at home, right? And somebody wrote in with a really thoughtful sort of way of looking at that, especially for people who maybe don't like cleaning the way you and I like aspects of cleaning. I don't want to give that short shrift. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to just sort of like tease that for next week. Is that okay?
That was just a really big tease, but yeah.
I know, it's a big tease. We're going to get 23 listeners by next week.
Oh, yeah.
Because I want to jump ahead to another email that we received here from listener Bruce that is a little bit more in line with what you're already talking about, which is like kind of finding a theme of the show lately, especially I think coming from me, is like feeling locked up about making some organizational choices in my life because I need to like probably buy some things. I've never been a fan of shopping, generally speaking. I just want this, like if somebody just said, here's a bunch of drawer and closet organizers for you and dropped it off, like, oh, I got to use these things now, and I'd find a way to use them. But like, there's something that I always find, again, sort of, I have a mental blockage about going online and like finding the right thing. And do I pull the trigger on this device? That thing I ordered off of Instagram forever ago, I thought was a scam because it took months to get here from
But then it did
the
get
Far
there.
East or whatever. And then, and so I just have various mental blocks about it. But I asked people earnestly, like, just tell, and also, the decision recently to definitely not buy anything from Amazon anymore. I know that people have been kind of living that lifestyle for a while, but I was actually weirdly just relying on Amazon more and more, but now we've totally cut that out of our lives, and so I'm like, I just don't know. Like, I open up these drawers in my kitchen, and I'm just like, this is awful. This isn't the way it should be. I'm an organized person, but I can't get my head around this particular issue. And Bruce says, hi there, checking in, listener number something here. So I can't tell if Bruce, first of all, let's just get this out of the way right now. Does Bruce need a number, or is he just forgetting what his number is? Do we have any idea? I'm looking up the numbers.
You're the keeper
here.
of the list. I don't know.
I am. You don't have it memorized yet?
I do not.
We
somehow.
really need to get to this. We need you to stop being so shrill and memorize.
Don't challenge me with something like that, because if you challenge me to memorize something, I will memorize it, and it will take up valuable space in my brain.
I am going to assume that there's a Bruce in Auburn, Washington, who is listener number 29, and I'm going to guess that this is the same Bruce, because I'm going to skip ahead to the end of Bruce's email. This will add some context to this, Hannah. Bruce is apparently the person who put us on to Don Aslett, the patron saint of Spotless.
That is. Yes.
He says, since reading Don Aslett's book, which I sent to you and Hannah, I have become a fan of his products. So I even buy my microfiber cloths on eBay that the patron saint of the pod once sold on QVC. Because that is Bruce's advice here for me, is I'm a vintage seller on eBay, Bruce writes, and I thought Andrew might find eBay a very good source for drawer organizers there, as well as lots of other stuff. I did a quick search in Home and Garden for vintage kitchen drawer organizers, and I found a lot of options. Keywords and getting in the right category are very important if you're shopping on eBay. There are so many reasons I think this would be a good option for your many needs, or for many of your needs. One reason is the people who sell there are thrifting or passing on things that they no longer need, so there are no corporate overlords. Also, finding the perfect pre-owned thing is better for the environment. And third thing, older stuff is just often better quality. And lastly, with tariffs and rising prices and this uncertain economy, this is a good source for quality goods at great prices. And then he says he even buys his microfiber cloths there, the same ones that Don used to sell on QVC. I always want to say QFC. Boy, that grocery chain really broke my brain.
So we didn't have QFC where I grew up, and I remember when I moved to Washington, and my dad was like helping me move into college, there was a QFC, and my dad kept calling it QVC for a very long time.
I think almost anybody who moves to this area does that, and now I'm so trained to say QFC that QVC is hard to say. So sorry for messing up the bottom of your email there, Bruce. But anyway, this is really inspiring to me. I was reading this before the show, and I'm like, I almost want to log in right now. I think that there are people in my life who like love to solve problems like this because they kind of like shopping. I mean, I think I said this last week. You're a little bit like that. Luke, my podcast partner in TBTL, is very much like that. He loves shopping, and then when the thing arrives, he gets to implement it. I think the problem is, like, when I have downtime, it's not like a fun activity for me to like open up my phone and just sort of like start scrolling through nice things and then decide what to buy. It always is a little bit like, all right, I'm going to sit down. I have to make time to do this because my inclinations lead towards other hobbies. But reading this email from Bruce really makes me want to go on eBay and start poking around, and then thinking ahead, sort of future tripping to that moment where the thing arrives, and then I'm like, ooh, let's put this to the test. Let's see what I can do to ease my anxious brain about this stuff.
I love this suggestion. I think this is so smart on so many levels. I was also going to suggest, I don't know how you feel about like doing the in-person thing and like doing a little treasure hunting.
Oh, I do love that. I love going to a thrift store or like a antique mall.
The Fremont Market. I remember one of my favorite things about the Fremont Market in Seattle, the antique mall, was how much Pyrex there was.
Yeah.
Casserole dishes in all kinds of patterns. And I bet you could get some really nice, especially sort of fitting your aesthetic, some sort of aquamarine blue glass or really hardy old-time plastic drawer separators and little dishes and that kind of thing. I feel like you could find some really good stuff at a place like that. Like you and Genevieve maybe go together, and
We love doing that, too. Yeah, there's one down in
Yes.
Soto, an antique mall, that we spent an entire afternoon, and I still didn't feel like I covered the whole thing. It's
And if
so
you
huge.
know what you're going for, I think it's a lot better too than if you, because it's nice to go to the, it's nice to go to the antique mall and stroll. But if you know what you're going for, you can kind of go to the specific stalls that have kitchenware, right?
Yeah.
Home goods, and then really identify what kinds of things you're trying to find. And I think that's a really good suggestion for someone like
Yeah.
you, because it does, like Bruce said, it hits all the boxes. It helps reduce waste. It's what a lot of times cheaper and no corporate overlord. So I think that's a great suggestion. And that's a good suggestion for anyone. Home goods, you could never know what kind of stuff you're going to find at specifically on eBay, and then in not just thrift stores like Goodwill, but antique malls where there are resellers. I think you'll find really good treasures.
I'm just remembering another thing I'd love to recommend to people, although I haven't actually bought anything off this yet. Somebody recommended to me, I think I was talking on a different podcast about, I won't go into details about why. Let's just say that I was tempted to buy some old broken G.I. Joe toys on eBay recently. All right, I'll explain it as quickly as possible. I had a bunch of G.I. Joe toys growing up. They're all gone now. I think I gave them all to, like, my friend's kids or something. Except for I have maybe, like, 4 or 5 little action figures just sort of scattered around the house that somehow slipped through the cracks. And people who have these G.I. Joe toys that are vintage now know that what happens is they often break because the G.I. Joe guy is connected by a little internal rubber band that after 30, 40 years, whatever it's been, tends to dry out and crack and break. But obviously these things are collector's items. I don't care. I'm not collecting these things. But we had 2 G.I. Joe toys that were portraying pretty grisly scenes on our bookshelves because, like, their pelvis and legs were disconnected from their torso. It is like these guys look like they had like jumped on a grenade or something like that. And Genevieve and another one had broken recently, and Genevieve said, "Why don't I just go on?" I don't know if she went on eBay or where she went, and she bought. Maybe it was before we stopped using Amazon, but she spent like $6 on a bag of like 50 or 80 of these O-rings. And she's like, "Let's do it. Let's fix your broken guys." I'm like, "Okay, great." So these things come. They were like, it was like $2 for this, $3 for this bag of all these O-rings. So we fixed the 2 guys. It's a fun little project that we do together. It takes us all of 5 minutes, and now I've got working G.I. Joe toys again, so I can, I guess, play with them. I don't know. They look less grizzled now. But all that is to say, what do we have but 72 O-rings that I have no use for now? And so I just thought to myself, I'll go on eBay and look specifically for broken G.I. Joe toys, because I know collectors will drive up the price of these things, but if they're literally broken, I'll just bring them back here and fix them. And I don't know what after that. But it turns out there are people out there who are way crazier than me, because broken G.I. Joe toys are expensive, Hannah. I started bidding on this shit, and like, I can't even remember what it went up to. And I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I got like addicted to the bidding process. I'm like, I'm not spending this much money on a broken Cobra Commander. I'm 48. I don't even collect these things. I'm just trying to use up my O-rings. And I kind of went on this whole thing.
See, this is your problem, though, is you were going for the really top tier. You're going for Cobra Commander.
I was
Come
looking
on.
for anything. I was just like, give me a paratrooper. I don't care. Anyway. All of that is to say, and I'm sorry that I didn't make that too long, but I got some advice from another listener who said, eBay, you're going to find a lot of collectors, so even like broken toys like that are going to be valuable to them, and so the price is going to be more expensive. Try what I believe the listener called it Goodwill auctions, but I think it's actually just the Goodwill online. You can buy things online from Goodwill. You're pointing at me. You knew this? I didn't know that. It's like a bidding process, not unlike eBay.
Yeah, so this is something that Goodwill, I think, Goodwill took a while to get figured out their online presence and what it actually meant for them to be online. And what they started doing originally they would do a lot like they used to do in Seattle when they did the glitter sale, where they did, you remember when there was like 2 days where they would have all of their really good, they would save all of their really good donations, all of their sort of designer stuff and high-end things. And then they would just have this, and it was like on Black Friday weekend, I think, a lot of the times. And so then they would do that kind of thing online where you could like bid similarly. And so I think they still do something like that. But yeah, I think a lot of the collector type things you can still get online.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I had totally forgotten about that glitter sale thing. I'm looking here. Nicole Broder wrote about it in 2019. Just a lot of blasts from the past as I think about Nicole Broder. It's Nicole, right? I don't have it in front of me anymore. And glitter sales and whatnot. But I'm on the Goodwill Marketplace. So all of that is to say, to go back to Bruce's email, eBay is a good resource, but also I could have some fun. It looks like they've redesigned this like in the past month or so too, this shopgoodwill.com that I'm on right now. And it's it looks like pretty navigable. Nope, can't say that word, not going to say it. It looks like it's pretty easy to navigate. And that's another thing. And like, again, I think that for me, like I say, I just have sort of these mental blocks about shopping, but if I can make it fun and exciting, and them updating this, oh, look at this, they have little, oh no, these are little Star Wars characters right here, toys and games. All right, I gotta go spend too much money on trying to reclaim my youth or some shit like that. But yeah, anyway, great advice, Bruce, appreciate it. What else, Hannah? We want to get out of here now?
Yeah, I think.
Are you're exasperated with me? Aren't
No,
you?
I was just thinking about how you remind me of how the other day I was having a negotiation with my dog outside of a bar that she wanted to go into, and that we did not have time to go into. And then some people walked by and saw me having this negotiation with my dog, and what came out of my mouth was, have you ever tried to reparent yourself through your dog? God.
That's what you were sort of saying to the folks as they walked by.
That's what I said to the people.
Just sort
as
of justifying it. Well, I think you made yourself look even more mentally stable. So
yeah,
congrats.
But that's what you just reminded me of, reliving your childhood or something.
Let's just get out of here.
We're both doing great.
Yeah, we really are. It's a tough time to be alive in America.
Time. It's so fun.
It was a fun show, though. Again, I would like to thank you for letting me sort of really tell in great detail my Lomi adventure. I'm in a very good place regarding Lomi right now.
I love that for you, because it really, I wish that anybody who wanted a countertop composter could have one, because it really did significantly improve my kitchening and my kitchen cleaning. It's just so nice to be able to wipe down the countertop with a paper towel and then put it right in the Lomi sometimes.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. All right, I just thought of like 3 more things I want to say about the Lomi. I'm not going to say them. It's called Restrained People. Take a page from my book. We would love to hear from you guys. Fill up the voicemail line with your voicemails, 508-469-9274, 508-HOW-WASH, and all the other ways you can get a hold of us. You know them, and we'll reiterate them here at the end of the show. Hope you have a great couple of weeks. Hannah and I will be back doing this bullshit in a couple of Mondays. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
You've been listening to the Spotless Podcast. If you have a question for Hannah and Andrew or some cleaning advice, call the Spotline at 508-HOW-WASH. That's 508-469-9274. You can also email them at spotlesspod@gmail.com. We'll be back soon. But until then, always remember, life is messy, but it doesn't have to be.